أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا وقعت الواقعة ليس لوقتها كاذبة خافضة رافعة إذا رجت الأرض رجا وبست الجبال بسا فكانت هباء منبثا وكنتم أزواجا ثلاثا فأصحاب الميمنة ما أصحاب الميمنة وأصحاب المشأمة ما أصحاب المشأمة والسابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين على سرر موضونة متكئين عليها متقابلين يطوف عليهم ولدان مخلدون بأكواب وأباريق وكأس من معين لا يصدعون عنها ولا ينزفون وفاكهة مما يتخيرون ولحم طير مما يشتهون وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون جزاء بما كانوا يعملون لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما وأصحاب اليمين ما أصحاب اليمين في سدر مخضود وطلح منضود وظل ممدود وماء مسكوب وفاكهة كثيرة لا مقطوعة ولا ممنوعة وفرش مرفوعة إنا أنشأناهن إنشاء فجعلناهن أبكارا عربا أترابا لأصحاب اليمين ثلة من الأولين وثلة من الآخرين وأصحاب الشمال ما أصحاب الشمال في سموم وحميم وظل من يحموم لا بارد ولا كريم إنهم كانوا قبل ذلك مترفين وكانوا يصرون على الحنث العظيم وكانوا يقولون أئذا متنا وكنا ترابا وإذا منا إنا لمبعوثون أو آباؤنا الأولون قل إن الأولين والآخرين لمجموعون إلى ميقات يوم معلوم ثم إنكم أيها الضالون المكذبون لآكلون من شجر من زقوم فمالئون منها البطون فشاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الحيم هذا نزلهم يوم الدين نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت وما نحن بمسبوقين على أن نبدل أمثالكم وننشئكم فيما لا تعلمون ولقد علمتم النشأة الأولى فلولا تذكرون أفرأيتم ما تحرثون أنتم تزرعونه أم نحن الزارعون لو نشاء لجعلناه حتاما فظلتم تفكهون إنا لمغرمون بل نحن محرومون أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون أنتم أنزلتموه من المزن أم نحن المنزلون لو نشاء جعلناه أجاجا فلولا تشكرون أفرأيتم النار التي تورون أنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون نحن جعلناها تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم فلا أقسم بمواقع النجوم وإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون تنزيل من رب العالمين أفبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون فلولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنة نعيم وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتسلية جحيم إن هذا لهو الحق اليقين إن هذا لهو حق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل سورة مباركة الفاتحة
كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع متضرع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك اللهم لا أجد لذنوب غافرا ولا لكبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته وكم من إثار وكيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرت بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني النفع بعد أملي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بخيانتها ومطالي يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضعني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملت في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا إلهي ومولاي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكم اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أعترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده ولا ذلك القضاء وتجاوزت بما جرى عليه من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك والزمني حكمك وبلاؤك وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفر مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمر غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي يا رب شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عزمي يا من بعد خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذب بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حبت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارها سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طاعية وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته فكيف الاحتمال لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف لي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما منها ضج وأبكي لأليم العذاب وشدته عمل طول البلاء ومدته فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركت ناطقا لا زجن إليك بين أهلها زجيج الآملين، ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولو نادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يزج إليك زجيج مؤمل رحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي، فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك ورأفتك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفها؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقها؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات، ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما آملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين أقتو لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل خبيث أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلت أو بر نشرت أو رزق بسطت أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك مأمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسر إليك في المبادرين واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين واستمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارده ومن كادني فكده واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجدلي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقل لي عثرتي واغفر لي زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك لعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وزمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي وبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني منايا ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Sayyid Hasan, Rizvi, respected elders, your brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum, Jami wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumin listed on the screen, as well as all other marhumin. Surah Al-Mubarak al-Fatiha. Dua Shafa Maries is requested for all those who are in need here and elsewhere. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويخشف السوء 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويخشف السوء. Ya Allah. Let us now invite Sayyid Hasan Rizvi to please come forward and recite tonight's majlis. Bar Muhammad wa al Muhammad salawat.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة بعد الصلوات. صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبه نستعين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، شفيع المذنبين، رحمة للعالمين، سيدنا والنبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع نفوسنا والطبيب ذنوبنا، أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد. مؤمنين مؤمنات, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We had started this topic or this series for Muharram and Safar, where we were going through one of the khutbahs that was delivered in Kufa. And as we talked about, there were, according to historians, up to 4 khutbahs delivered. One by Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, one by Kulthum alayhi salam, one by, of course, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And some historians say that the eldest daughter of Imam Hussein, Fatima, known as Fatima al-Kubra, also gave a sermon there as well. So we had been going through that piece by piece and extracting some points from there. The point that we had left off with last time, if I can find it, was where she was talking about how one of the reasons, or the main reason, for why the people of Kufa ended up, or the Muslims in general, specifically the people of Kufa, they ended up fighting against their Imam, fighting against the grandson of Rasulullah. Why would they do that? And one of the reasons that she mentions is that it's because of that grudge that many of them had towards Imam Ali alayhi salam. Because of that hatred that festered and boiled and stuck and grew in their hearts from the time where, because their forefathers were all killed by Imam Ali, right? They were jealous of the position of Imam Ali, and because of that, that hatred stayed in their hearts. And as we went through some of the riwayat regarding the idea of hatred and envy and being argumentative and all of this, we see that this can tear apart somebody's spirituality. We saw that, look, these were practicing Muslims that, this lady Fatima is talking to. She's not talking to kafirs or non-Muslims or anything. She's talking to practicing Muslims. Those who fought in many battles, those who some were with Rasulullah, some, with the Khulafa, they were practicing, right? But that hatred that they had in their heart, that grudge that they had, the revenge that they sought, caused their hearts to, as we'll go into and see today, caused their hearts to seal. And because of that, even though they knew they were fighting against the Ahlul Bayt, they're fighting against the grandson of Rasulullah, they just didn't care. Because of that hatred of Imam Ali, they went and killed him. And this is what she's mentioning to them. And now in the final part, because this will be, I believe, this will be the last session that we have. Because on Sunday night, when we commemorate the Shahada of Bibi Ma'asuma alayha salatu wassalam, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We are honored to have Sheikh Mehdi Rastani speak, because he'll be here for the Secrets of Salat workshop. So he has graciously agreed to speak on Sunday night as well. So he'll be delivering that subject. And then our next session after that will be Thursday night, which will be commemorating the Shahada of the 11th Imam, right? And then, of course, Friday will be Eid al-Zahra. So this will be the final night of this topic, at least, right? And this is hopefully we'll be able to close it. So where we now leave off in the khutbah. At this point, she's mentioned one of the spiritual diseases. And now, after going through all this other information, mentioning the fada'il of the Ahlul Bayt, she calls out some of their issues. Now, she basically tells them what does their akhirah look like. After all of this is said and done, after she's explained to them what they've done and why they've done it, now she wants to explain, for people like you Muslims, you Kufans, what you've done, people who've engaged in this sort of behavior, what is the consequence for that? So now we continue. طَبَّأً لَكُمْ. May you be destroyed. فَانْتَظِرُوا اللَّعْنَ وَالْعَذَابِ. You should do intidhar, meaning you should be waiting for adhab and la'na, for punishment, for the curse of Allah to be upon you, for Allah's mercy to be removed from you. فَكَأَنْ قَدْ حَلَّتْ بِكُمْ وَتَوَاتَرَتْ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ نِقِمَاتٍ. Revenge, meaning Allah, divine revenge, will continuously rain down from the skies upon you. فَيُسْحِتَكُمْ بِمَا كَسَبْتُمْ. And you will be wiped out and exterminated for what you have done. Right, so she's using very, very harsh words from them. And it's at this point she quotes a part of Surah An'am, Surah 6, ayah number 65. And she says there, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَيُذِيقَ بَعْدَكُمْ بَأْسَ بَعْدٍ. And some of you shall be treated harshly or taste the evil of others. Now, I want to stop here and actually quote the whole ayah, because she only quotes a part of it, but I want to go through the whole thing, because it's relevant for us to hear. So the whole ayah, and again, Surah An'am, Surah 6, ayah 65, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ هُوَ الْقَادِرُ عَلَىٰ أَن يَبْعَثَ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابًا مِّن فَوْقِكُمْ. Say, right, so this is Allah commanding Rasulullah to tell them that Allah is qadir. He's very able. He's completely powerful on sending down upon people adhab, sending punishment down. Whether it's min fawqikum, He can send it down from above you, or min tahdi arjulikum, or from under your feet, or yalbisakum shi'a, or He can deceive individuals. Allah is saying He can make people taste. وَيُذِيقَ بَعْدَهُمْ بَأْسَ بَعْدٍ. He can split people up into factions and make them fight amongst themselves too. انظر كيف نصرف الآيات لعلهم يفقهون. Look at how we give these signs and explain and send down our ayat, these clear examples and signs to people, so that maybe some of them can have a deeper understanding. And we've talked about this before as well, that one thing that this daughter of Imam Hussein, Fatima, that she's been mentioning, that we've talked about in previous sessions, is one of the main issues that the Muslims faced before, and that people like us still face to this day, is that we are superficial thinkers. That when we examine issues that are happening in the world, domestically, in terms of whatever, politics, community affairs, family affairs, issues that might arise, we take a look at it through very simplistic lenses, through simple eyes. And we love to split things and groups into people of being good and evil, right and wrong. This person is Husseini, this person's Yazidi, right? These sort of simplistic overgeneralizations and oversimplifications. These people are on haqq and these people are on batil. What this ayah indicates and what this, Fatima bint al-Hussein is saying too is that the punishment that is now going to descend upon those people of Kufa, and as a reminder for us, punishments that may descend upon you and I if we're not thinking about it, is that sometimes we are split up into different factions. We're split up into groups, into parties, into, this right and wrong, That this side is whatever, this side is whatever. And Allah is saying it's very, very easy for him to say, look, both of you are actually being punished through this. None of you are right. You're both wrong. And because of the evil behind you, Allah is taking the evil from both of you, the dhulm that all of you have performed, and He's punishing both of you. And Allah doesn't even have to directly get involved. He says, you guys are punishing each other. You're doing Allah's work for Him, basically, because of the dhulm that you've committed. So there seems to be a set of evil actions that sometimes human beings go through. And because of that, one of the ways that Allah sends His adhab on those people in their lifetime is by splitting them up and then making them fight one another. And then each party thinks that they're the ones who are in the right. And Allah's saying, look, the point of this is that some people, either the ones within or the ones outside observing, maybe they will look at this and say, you know what, maybe I need to take a step back and see that, is there actually a right answer here? Is there actually a right party here? And this is exactly what happened to the people of Kufa as well. Some of them, we know this in the ziyarat as well, they stayed back. Right? They said, we don't want to get involved, for example, right? Because we have two, groups of Muslims that are fighting, we don't want to get involved. Well, that's a problem, for example. We had some that gave their reasoning that, we have to fight with the Khalifa of the time. Yazid's the Khalifa, we can't go against him. He's got democratic rule and vote, we can't go against him. So we can't support Imam Hussein, we have to go with Yazid. And on the other side, we said, look, we know we're supposed to support Imam Hussein, some of the Muslims and Shia said, but, as what happened in Kufa, if we do that, Ibn Ziyad's going to intimidate, harass, and maybe even kill our family. So, obviously Allah wants us to protect our family, right? The women came out on the streets and they said, look, they grabbed their men and they brought them back home, right? When Muslim ibn Aqil was there. So these divisions and these fitnas were created very easily. And all of these initial supporters, all the writers of the letters and all of these things, one by one, thousands and thousands, they began dropping. And that's where we get only this, small number, 72 as they say, right? Who actually go out and fight with Imam Hussein. Everybody else, they ended up fighting amongst themselves later on. And that's why you see a huge amount of them within Kufa, they're killed anyway by Ibn Ziyad. Or they're imprisoned for other reasons. Or they start fighting amongst themselves. Or when Mukhtar starts his revolution, people are killed because of that. Or when the Tawabin rise up, people are killed because of that. So no matter what their decision was, they all ended up becoming losers. And they started fighting amongst themselves. So all of them, this was something that even the 10, 11-year-old daughter of Imam Hussein was able to call out and tell them, this is going to be the adhab that you'll see in your future. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So it's a reminder for us to be very, very careful where we see issues arise. When we want to decide to pick a side, we really need to, again, look at it with wiser lenses, with a bit more hikmah and basira. And sometimes the conclusion may be that neither side that's there is actually correct, and they're actually both being punished, and they're both harming each other in that sense. Let's continue now the khutbah. So next line, she says, ثُمَّ تُخَلَّدُونَ فِي الْعَذَابِ عَذَابِ الْعَلِيمِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ بِمَا ظَلَمْتُمُونَ. Then you'll see that you will be in everlasting punishment on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So now she's saying, look, your dunya is done. You're going to be punished forever because of what you've done. Your dunya is ruined. You'll be fighting amongst yourselves. That's one of your punishments. When you get on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you'll be punished there as well too because of the dhulm that you've done to us. And then she quotes another ayah, which is very famous for most of us. Allah la'anatullah ala zalimin. Right? This is from Surah Hud, Surah 11, ayah 18. So the whole ayah is probably going to come up in a second. وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. And who's more of a zalim, more unjust or oppressive than somebody who lies about Allah? And he continues, أُولَٰئِكَ يُعْرَضُونَ عَلَى رَبِّهِمْ وَيَقُولُ الْأَشْهَادُ هَؤُلَاءِ الَّذِينَ كَذَبُوا عَلَى رَبِّهِمْ. Those people will be presented in front of Allah, their Rabb, and the witnesses will say, these are the ones that lied against your Lord. So in a sense, it's almost like this, Fatima bint al-Hussein is saying, we are the ones who are the Hujjatullah. You are using your fake Islamic arguments. We are the proofs of Allah on earth, not you. Not your pseudo-Islamic arguments. Not your pseudo-attachment to the Khalifa. Not your idea about protecting your family. All this is nonsense. Your job was to do bay'ah and to stick to your word and not to betray your Imam Hussein. And you've done that. and now your dunya has been ruined and your akhirah has been ruined as well. And that's where the ayah ends. Ala la'inatullah ala zalimin. Because of the dhulm that you've done, then Allah's la'na is on you. That mercy that you should have been able to get, that all creatures get on earth. Allah is Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Ar-Rahman, we know, is that all-inclusive mercy that every single person gets. Every single creature in the world, anything that's been created gets that mercy. Even somebody that will deny God's existence, that will curse out God, right? Like the most staunch atheist. Even they get the gift of life. They get the gift of risk of continuing to breathe, right? They are allowed to continue and say all this stuff. That mouth, that tongue that Allah has granted them, they're using that to, to curse Allah, to discount Allah, but Allah is still giving them that sense of mercy. Maybe they'll change their minds later on. But over here, that mercy now is being withdrawn from certain individuals, right? And again, the topic of la'na is a separate one. We're not going to go there. But unquestionably, the la'na of Allah is on people like this, who claim one thing, who claim to be Muslims, who give their allegiance to their imam, to the leaders on earth, and then they backstab them. And this has been the whole theme through all of the different khutbahs that happened in Kufa. The major issue is that they shouldn't have written in letters in the first place. If they didn't go and give their bay'ah, if they just kept their mouth shut, then they wouldn't be in this predicament. Because Imam would never have sent Muslim ibn Aqil, and then they would have been fine. Imam would have known, I'll just stick to the plans of any other Imam where they sit quietly in their time and they do secret work. But their arrogance was in the fact that, no, we will support you. They called the Imam, and then we see what the result is. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now we continue the rest of the khutbah. Waylakum. Or, they usually translate wail as, woe unto you. But basically, she's saying, may you be damned and destroyed. أَتَدْرُونَ أَيَّةَ يَدٍ طَاعَتْنَا مِنْكُمْ. Do you have any idea, do you recognize and know which hand from amongst you, individuals, abused us? O أَيَّةَ نَفْسٍ نَزَعَتْ إِلَىٰ قِتَالِنَا. Do you know which of your souls, which of you people desired and had that shawq, that wanting to kill us? أم بأية رجل مشيتم إلينا تبغون محاربتنا. Or do you know which of your feet have walked towards us, desiring and demanding war with us, meaning the Ahlul Bayt? And then, after she's saying all this, now she kind of gives, as she mentioned before, about the idea of people seeking hatred or seeking revenge against Imam Ali. She mentions a few other points which are talking about their spiritual diseases. قَفَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ. Your hearts were locked. وَغَلُظَتْ أَكْبَادُكُمْ. Literally means your livers have been thickened, meaning that, again, their insides have been shut down. وَطُبِعَ عَلَى أَفْئِدَتُكُمْ. That your chests, meaning your hearts, have been completely sealed. وَخُتِمَ عَلَى سَمْعِكُمْ وَبَصَرِكُمْ. Your eyes and your ears have been shut, closed, and they've been sealed off. وَسَوَّلَ لَكُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ وَأَمْلَ لَكُمْ. Shaitan seduced you. Shaitan is the one who dictated to you all these different things that you've done. He tricked you into performing all of these things, and you followed what he said. وَجَعَلَ عَلَى بَصَرِكُمْ غِشَاوَةً. He put a hijab, a curtain in front of your eyes so you couldn't see the reality of what you were doing. You thought you were doing something good for Islam and your duty to protect yourself or your family, whatever it was, but this was Shaitan messing with you, and you listened to him and you followed him. All because your eyes, your ears, your hearts, your minds were all sealed off because of what you've done before. فَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَهْتَدُونَ. You are people that can never now receive guidance. From before and now. You will never receive hidayat ever again. تَبْأً لَكُمْ. May you be destroyed. I hope you are destroyed. Ya Ahl Kufa. كَمْ تُرَاثٍ لِرَسُولِ اللَّهِ قِبْلَكُمْ. Which, what occurred to you? What inheritance, what irth did you have from Rasulullah? That وَدُخُولٍ لَهُ لَدَيْكُمْ. That you had all these teachings that you gained from Rasulullah, and still you sought vengeance against who? ثُمَّ غَدَرْتُمْ بِأَخِيهِ عَلِيَّ بْنَ أَبِي طَالِبٍ عليه الصلاة والسلام. صلوات الله محمد وعلى محمد. Again, she's saying, what's the point? You've earned and gained all this ilm and knowledge and hidayat from Rasulullah, only to take that and go and kill his brother. Right? So she's calling out their forefathers who went and, or either they were part of the Khawarij, or they were sitting around and allowed for Imam Ali to be killed. You said you allowed all of this. You sought to kill him. And then she says, my Jad, my grandfather. وَبَنَيْهِ عِتْرَةِ النَّبِي الطَّيِّبِينَ الْأَخْيَارِ. And you also then betrayed and killed his beloved children, Imam Hasan and Imam Hussein. So she's making the whole connection that you said that you were the Ummah of Rasulullah. You gave all this love and commitment and everything to him, but then you went and killed his brother. You killed his grandsons. You ruined everything. These people who are purified, who are chosen. And then this is where it gets very harsh. And this shows us the mindset and mentality of some of the people of Kufa. فَأَفْتَخَرَ بِذَلِكَ مُفْتَخِرًا. And there were poets amongst you who went and took pride in what you did, and they recited poetry about how happy they were about killing Imam Hussein. And then she recites the poetry, right? So she repeats the poet, this poem, right? نحن قتلنا عليا وبني عليا بالسيوف هندية ورماح وسبينا نساءهم سبي ترك ونطحناهم فبأي نطاح. This is, again, one of the poets in Kufa. After the episode of Karbala, he recited this, and he was proud to recite it. He was saying, we killed Ali and the sons of Ali with swords and spears that were Hindi, meaning from India. We captured their women like they were non-Muslim slaves. And we defeated them, and wow, what a great defeat it was. She says, this is how you are talking about the brother and the children and the family of the Holy Prophet. Can you imagine the diseases that were in their hearts? This is how proud they were of what they had done. فَبِفِيكَ أَيُّهَا الْقَائِلُ الْكَثْكَثْ. O poet who recited this, and anybody who follows in that footstep, may you choke on your words. وَلَكَ الْأَثْلَبِ. May a curse be upon you. افتخرت بقتل قوم زكاهم الله. Are you proud that you've killed the people who have been gone through tazkiyah and purified by Allah directly? That's the people you're proud that you've killed? وطهرهم, they've been purified thoroughly, like she's referencing obviously ayat al-tathir. وأذهب عنهم الرجس. Right? Of course we understand that. وأكذم وأقع كما قع أبوك. How could you take pride in something like this? She says, you need to watch over yourselves now. Right? The way that you've acted is like a dog, a stray dog on the streets. وَيْلٌ لَكُمْ عَلَى مَا فَضَلْنَا اللَّهِ. So whatever has happened to you, it's because of what you've sent forward. All of these things, little by little, you might have been good Muslims in the beginning, but little by little, because of the different actions you've had, as we said in the beginning, the enmity, the hatred you had for Imam Ali continued to boil up. It sealed your sight. It sealed your ears. It sealed your heart and everything. All of that Islam that you appeared to have learned was completely useless because it ended in such a harsh action. And this is a final point that you and I think really need to think about. There are these actions that you and I, again, practicing Muslims, I hope, people who are striving to gain iman. These types of spiritual diseases can completely ruin our spiritual growth. Now, I don't think anybody here would ever imagine that they would go and fight the Imam of the time. I don't think anybody would think that that's possible. What we see in one of the lessons from the episode of Karbala is just that. The Muslim Ummah, knowing exactly who Imam Hussein was, knowing his lineage, knowing how he has been purified, because of what they had done before, because of the animosity and the hatred that they harbored, it stuck and it ruined their heart. It ruined their spiritual growth to such an extent that they were not liable, they're not able to gain any hidayat anymore. Imagine that you and I, because of the spiritual diseases that we possess right now, those grudges, the hatred, the revenge, all of these disgusting spiritual diseases, all of that animosity and hatred that we may have for fellow community members, for example, or family members, or brothers or sisters, whatever it happens to be. All of that we have, now according to the formula that's being given by the Ahlul Bayt, especially Fatima bint al-Hussein, is that you won't receive hidayat anymore. And as they say, you can cry as much as you want, it's useless. Or in our instance, you can have these majalis as much as you want, you won't gain hidayat anymore. You can do whatever you want, but until we remove those spiritual diseases that are sitting within our hearts, none of this is going to benefit us. And may Allah protect all of us from these kind of diseases. We're all subject to that, every single one of us. Because these things are those things that eat at us every single day. Shaitan can easily come, whisper to us, influence us, and make us think that what we're doing is the Islamic thing to do. It can become a very difficult thing sometimes to recognize when something is actually Islamic or shaitani. It's very difficult. That's why the best course of action is to follow those who are on that path of the Ahlul Bayt, follow their advice of the righteous ulama to see which direction are they pushing us. If we can find that out, if we take the extra steps needed to do a bit more research in some of these matters, then we'll be able to maybe get and make a clearer conclusion. If we're going to be very hasty about how we make decisions, then we'll end up just like the people of Kufa. May Allah protect us from that sort of akhirah. And we end in this khutbah, as she says, are you envious of what Allah has granted us? Why are we at fault? She's saying, why are the Ahlul Bayt at fault if we are the ones who are like infinite oceans? That this wisdom, this knowledge, this fadilah is pouring out to us Ahlul Bayt. Why are you envious of us? We've gained this, we've earned this. How is killing us going to help any of you? It's an irrational thing that they've done, right? Yes, maybe they were jealous of the fadail of the Ahlul Bayt, fine. But they could have earned it another way. They could have joined the caravan of Imam Hussein and earned Jannah like everybody else did, all the shuhada did. But instead they made the wrong decision. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And they said at this point, the cries among the Kufans were so loud. They were wailing because of this khutbah of Fatima bint al-Hussein. And they told her, Ya ibnat al-tayyibin, O daughter of the purified ones. فَقَدْ أَحْرَقْتِ قُلُوبِنَا. You have, it's enough. You have completely burnt our hearts. وَأَنْدَجْتِ نُحُورِنَا. Our throats have been parched, right? We've cried so much that, we can't take anymore. وَأَضَرَمَتِ الْأَجْوَافِنَا. Our insides have been inflamed and completely emptied out. We can't show any more remorse than this. We can't cry anymore. So after this, then they say Fatima ended her khutbah and then she was done and she became silent. Again, all this crying, all this shedding of tears, but from the other khutbahs we know that this crying was basically useless for the people of Kufa. They didn't learn their lessons, and again they began to betray their imams. This daughter, this eldest daughter of Fatima, her musibah is another very, very difficult musibah when we think about it. Yes, she went through the trials, the difficulties in Karbala. But think about it when we compare it to other individuals as well. They say that, as we mentioned before, her husband was with her, Hasan al-Muthanna, was with her in Karbala. And after he got injured, he was actually protected and he was able to go back to Medina. Can you imagine now, Fatima bint al-Hussein, this eldest daughter, as she's now traveling with the caravan from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham. She's there with her little sister Sakina. She's seeing the way that her family members are being abused and being treated. She has to leave behind her baby sister. First, she leaves behind her baby brother, Asghar, in Karbala. Then she has to leave behind Sakina in Sham. Now they finally make their way back to Karbala and then back to Medina. Can you imagine? We can only imagine the type of shame or grief that she may have had in her heart. She comes home. She's with her husband. She has somebody whose shoulder she can cry on. After this, they say she didn't lose any children. She had her children with her afterwards. Her family is left intact. Yes, she might have lost her father, but her family is still there. She has people that she can grieve and she can help with her taziyat. But when she looks around at the other women of Karbala, everybody else's husbands are gone. Imagine how bad she must have felt. No one else. Rabab has nobody to cry with. al-Baleen has nobody to cry with. Layla has nobody to cry with. Rabab has no one. Farwa has no one. Everybody is left alone. When you look at their children, Farwa, Qasim, Rabab, they have no children left. But Fatima bint al-Hussein still has her children available to her. When she comes back to her house, she's still able to be there with her children. But how must she have felt when she knew that when Zainab finally made it back to her house in Medina, when her own husband was unable to recognize her? They say, Abdullah bin Ja'far says, who is this old lady who's knocking at my door, whose back is arched now, with gray and white hair? She says, don't you recognize I'm your wife Zainab? Fatima is there. She's able to sit there with her children now. But what about Zainab now when she comes into her house, as they say, and she goes into the room of her children and she looks at those two small musallas of On and Muhammad. And finally, after all this long episode through Karbala all the way back to Medina, when she's been unable to cry for her children, finally now, after she's been saying, Wa hijaba, wa Muhammada, wa Husseina, wa Husseina. Finally now in Medina, when she comes into her home, as she collapses in her room, she is able to say, Wa'ana wa Muhammada. Ala la'natullah ala qawmi zalimin wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un ridan bi qada'ihi wa tasliman li amri. Salawat ala Muhammad wa Muhammad.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين والسيد الوسيم، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد صلى الله عليه وآله حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله، السلام عليك يا محمد المصطفى، السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور، أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به، يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مظلمات ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرزي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والهجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد الله ملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم موقن بالشرع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وعمري لأمركم متبع، صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها الشهيد، السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم، لعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وعبداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصر. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن السيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع الأخي المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زيد فيه غير من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. وألحقك الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. اللهم إني تعرضت لزيارة أوليائك رغبة في ثوابك ورجاء لمغفرتك وجزيل إحسانك. فأسألك أن تصلي على محمد وآله الطاهرين وأن تجعل رزق بهم دارا وعيش بهم قارا وزيارة بهم مقبولة وحياة بهم طيبة وأدرجني إدراج المكرمين واجعلني ممن ينقلب من زيارتي مشاهد أحبائي مفلحا منجحا قد استوجب غفران الذنوب وستر العيوب وكشف الكروب. إنك أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة. السلام عليكم يا أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى محمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان. أجل الله لك ما وعدك من الناس وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توأه وتمتعه فيها طويلا.